Yeah, Randall was able to practice this week, and he's probable. So, barring a shocking turn of events, he will definitely play. But Beckham, they listed him as questionable. They brought him on a trip. They're holding out one possibility that, if he warms up and the thing acts up and it's too cold, they might hold him out. But they expect him to be able to play. They don't expect him to show anything in warm-ups that would scare them off. So I would imagine you will see him. Obviously then the question becomes how was he running with that bad hamstring, and, could he hurt it again, and those kinds of things. There's always something with Odell Beckham. There's always some kind of issue swirling around with that guy, good or bad. He's just one of those magnets. But yeah, I think he's probably going to play as we sit here right now.
Dan, a lot of times when the Eagles are involved in a game, a lot of the talk is their pace and Chip Kelly, this offense. Do you sense a different focus entering this particular Eagles game this year as opposed to the first few meetings between a Chip Kelly Eagles team and the Giants?
Well, I think this Giants team is feeling better about itself than it was the last 2 years when it ran into the Eagles. I mean, you go back to Kelly's first year was the year the Giants started 0-6, so they were a mess. And then last year, they came in 3-2, but obviously this was the game that started their slide. It started a 7-game losing streak here in Week 6 last year. The game Victor Cruz got hurt, so they were still kind of reeling from the year before and finding their footing. But this is a team that has, it knows not much was expected of it. And it's kind of overachieved. But last week they had the big Eli Manning comeback, which they hadn't had really in a couple of years, that fourth quarter comeback that he used to be known for. They did that to beat the 49ers. They're kind of energized by the fact that the Cowboys are a mess, right now and seem vulnerable, and the fact that the Eagles have started slowly. I think they see that they have an opportunity, and they just have a higher comfort level about themselves than they've had in the past couple of years. Now, like I said, they've overachieved. This is still a roster with some holes. It's still number 32 in pass defense. There's a lot of flaws on this team. But right now, I think they're feeling more confident going into this game than they probably have against in any Eagles game the last 2 years.
Now, Dan,
that's worth.
Yeah, and you were around this team last year and been for a long time, but they did not stop the run last year. They were the worst in the NFL. No. Now they're the best. What's the difference?
Yeah. I think, as I said, also number 2 and number 32 against the pass. So I think what you have is you have a very good coaching staff that has accurately assessed its personnel and said, look, we don't really have pass rushers. We don't have impact pass rushers. Our best impact pass rusher is down in Florida, rehabbing off of with a 4-fingered hand. So we're not probably going to be able to generate that. So what we need to do is we need to stop the run. We have pretty good run stoppers, so let's focus on that. And I think the idea is if they can stop the run completely, then that becomes your pressure on the quarterback because he knows he has to throw, and that takes him out of his comfort zone. And I think they've been effective at that. They've given up a lot of yards. They've given up a lot of yards and points in the fourth quarter as teams have come back on them through the air, but they've managed to hold on 3 times and not 2 others. So, they have their safeties are Landon Collins and Brandon Merriweather. These guys don't cover. They know they can't cover. So what do you do with them? You bring them up. You play against the run. You blitz with them. So I think the coaches are sort of finagling their personnel the right way and to a pretty good effect early in the season to really play to these guys' strengths and minimize the weaknesses. I think that's been the story of the Giants' season on defense so far.
How do you think, Dan, the Giants feel Sam Bradford changes this Eagles offense from the Nick Foles teams and Mark Sanchez that they saw last year?
I think they still view it as a Kelly offense. I think they still look at it as, they're probably going to want to run the ball. They're going to want to operate quickly. And I don't know that the Giants come in here thinking, obviously I think when it was Michael Vick, you knew you had to plan for something unusual because he could take off and run. And he liked to extend the play in the pocket. But I don't know that the Giants view trying to play Bradford as any different than trying to play Nick Foles. I think they view this as Chip Kelly's offense, and they're going to want to focus on stopping DeMarco Murray first, again, because that's what they do well, and that's what got them roasted here last year when LaShawn McCoy went nuts on them in Week 6. And then, they're going to try to minimize the deficiencies on the back end. I think, they're down a couple of cornerbacks in Prince Amukamara and possibly Tremaine McBride, so they're thin back there. That was a strength of the defense. So I think, I know that Steve Spagnuolo knows Sam Bradford because he drafted him when he was head coach of St. Louis. and he knows his strengths and weaknesses. But I really think, having been on the Giants this week, that they still view this as the Eagles. They view it as probably the same kind of offense they've seen from the Eagles the last couple of years, albeit with different personnel.
Yeah, Jordan Matthews had a real nice game in the second meeting last year. He generally operates out of the slot, and with Aguilar out, the Eagles are a little thin at wide receiver. Kind of possibly counters the fact that the Giants aren't all that good against the pass. So it should be interesting to see the chess match on what Chip Kelly elects to do against that Giant defense tonight.
Yeah, hey, look at the numbers. The Giants have been very susceptible to tight ends and to running backs catching the ball. So I wonder if, Sproles and maybe Ertz, who hasn't done a whole lot, I guess, yet, I wonder if those are guys that could factor in, because if you look at the Giants and what they've been susceptible to in terms of allowing yardage in the passing game, it's been a lot of that underneath stuff. And so I think maybe the Eagles would do well to look there.
Yeah, it should be interesting. Dan Graziano, ESPN.com's NFL Nation, as the Eagles and Giants renew their rivalry tonight. I know the Eagles, if they lose 2-4, 0-3 in the division, a lot of people think this is a much more important game for them. But do the Giants give you that sense this week at practice, or last week at practice, I guess?
Coughlin always has them fired up for division games. Playing in the division is an extra thing. But he has been since week 2, when they lost their second. They were 0-2 and they had blown fourth quarter leads, double-digit fourth quarter leads against the Cowboys and Falcons to start the season. He has really focused on, hey, we have an opportunity here. Cowboys are without their quarterback for an extended period of time, and the Eagles are off to a rough start. So there's a chance here. So I think he has had them kind of locked in on this game for a while now. And I think, they view it as an opportunity to kind of take control. They have the Eagles tonight. They have the Cowboys on Sunday. So they feel like if they can win these two games, boy, oh boy, all of a sudden, right, who's in charge now of the division? So that's where they are right now psychologically. Will they be able to pull it off? We'll see. But I think the Giants are mentally in a pretty good place, and they are fired up to play this division game. They view it as very important.
Well, we know Beckham had said, it's Eagles-Giants, and Eli, same thing. We know that what this game means for both of these stars and teams. You can listen to it tonight here on 97.3 ESPN. The coverage starts at 7:30. Our Outside View with Dan Graziano, ESPN.com, NFL Nation, covering the New York Football Giants. Always love this game. Like to catch up with you, Dan. Thanks so much.
All right, Mike. Take care.
Good stuff from Dan Graziano, and I thought he brought up a really good point.